Welcome to 30 Minutes with Edmond Safari, always on Urban TV. And tonight, we talk to a young gentleman who is moving to different schools with a special campaign message, corruption. And this young man is none other than Imran Mbowa. And of course, it's a pleasure talking to him.
How are you all today? Yeah, so I'm having a youth awareness campaign against corruption. You introduced me. My name is Imran Mbowa. I come from the Aga Khan Academy, Mombasa. I'm moving from senior 3 to senior 4. Yeah, so this is the holiday that transitions the two classes. So I'm here to do an awareness campaign against corruption. The theme is preserving the integrity of future leaders.
Hey, how are you?
Hello, Edmund. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Very nice day. Thank you for coming and for your time.
Yeah, now who is Imran?
Imran Mbowa was born on January 17th, 2001 in Kampala, Uganda. His mother and father are Swaibu Mbowa and Mariam Mbowa. Swaibu coming from Jinja and Mariam coming from Kampala. Yes.
So where do you go to school and how old are you?
I'm 15 years old and I go to the Aga Khan Academy in Mombasa.
Mombasa?
Yeah.
And you study in Aga Khan, Mombasa?
Yes, sir.
And you are undertaking this training, these young students like you are in Kampala. How are you able to do that?
I'm on my summer holiday, so it gives me the mobility to move around these schools and the time to organize these presentations. Yes.
Now, what motivated you to start doing these kind of projects that you are doing today?
I gained the motivation from the aspect that corruption is a problem that I've had tormenting Uganda as a country. I love Uganda very much and I'm a young student. So in order for me to pursue this problem, I felt this was one of the ways I could do it, with interacting with my fellow youth and letting them know the effects of corruption on society and on themselves, so it's eradicated in the near or far future.
So you were so interested in the corruption awareness?
Yes, sir.
And you're targeting you young folks like you are?
Yes, sir.
Why? Why corruption?
Corruption is affecting Uganda greatly. According to my research, Uganda loses a lot of money annually because of corruption as an epidemic. So I decided to pursue this problem because I felt that in order for it to go away, we need to inform the youth who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow and are going to have the ability to eradicate and make sure this problem goes away in the far future.
I thought that the fact that so many young people talk about different disciplines to different people, you're actually talking more about corruption. I thought you had a story to tell. Maybe you were part of a corruption vice.
In the past, I've been involved in certain corruption tendencies that usually get me in trouble. But I've been, let's say, once I was in P6 and I didn't want to go to school because I was scared of a certain teacher. So what I did was I stole my mom and dad's car keys so they couldn't take me to school. So they searched for half of the day for the car keys. Then finally, when they did get them, yeah, they were surprised why I didn't confess I had the car keys in the first place, and they punished me dearly for it. That's in my presentation. That shows a sign of corruption, yeah, and a corruption tendency in a youth. That's one of the examples that I can give of something that I've done that involves corruption in it. Yes.
How long have you been going to schools, training so many students, talking about this subject, corruption?
For the past 2 weeks.
For the past 2 weeks?
Yes.
And how many schools have you gone and visited?
I've visited 5 schools now.
5 schools?
Yeah.
Which are?
Lubiri Secondary School, Kaboa High School, Chibuli Secondary, and Nabisunsa Secondary School.
Secondary school.
Yes, that's 4 or 5?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, 4 schools.
Plus this one as well.
Yes. Now
so, what has been the reaction from your folks, from your fellow students about you undertaking this course of action you are taking right now?
Well, they were surprised that someone at my age would be interested in a problem like this. Usually we're off hanging around with our friends, pursuing sports, which I really love to do. It's just I thought there's something that needs to be done at a certain stage, and if I let the opportunity pass by, I'll never get it again.
So are you only targeting schools?
Yes, for now, because that's where the majority of the youngsters are, ideally, in schools.
And what's your target audience? What I'm trying to mean is, are you only interested in the young folks from senior 1 or A level to senior 4, or you're also interested to senior 5 and senior 6 A levels?
In most of my presentations, schools have given me HAC classes to talk to and very few youngsters, but ideally my target audience is age 13 to 18, so yes, from senior 1 to senior 6.
And how do you undertake your training with these young folks?
I give them a PowerPoint presentation where they get to interact and give their opinions on corruption, and then I give my opinion on corruption through the presentation, and they learn through my knowledge.
So it's an interactive one?
Yes.
And do you usually have situations where you disagree with your audiences?
No. Unfortunately, they haven't come to a contradiction on my statements, because I feel I come with a lot of fact towards them, with a lot of figures that I don't think some of them want to disagree with, and usually they agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, some facts and figures.
Yes, sir.
Would you mind telling us some of those facts and figures?
Uganda is rated out of 179 countries, 142nd from least corrupt to most corrupt in the world, referring to it as one of the most corrupt countries in the world, according to Transparency International, which is an organization based in Berlin that deals with corruption.
And the fact that you are seeing this kind of problem, what can be done to really change the mindset of Ugandans in regard to corruption tendencies?
What I feel can be done to change the mindset of my fellow Ugandans is that I think they need to be educated on exactly what starts corruption and what corruption does. If they understand everything around it, definitely they'll have a negative mindset towards it, and the problem will generally have Ugandans as an enemy.
Hold on to that. And when we will be back after the commercial break, we shall join in more into the conversation. Thank you for staying tuned to 30 Minutes with Edmond Safari, only on Urban TV. And of course, my name is Edmond Safari, your host of the show. Now, earlier on, before we went for that commercial break, Imran, you were talking about some students who encouraged you to take it further to regional. Are you?
My first objective is to establish the clubs in the schools. If I'm not able to do this, if I'm not able to establish the foundation in Uganda, then I won't be able to pursue it regionally. But if I'm able to base a foundation in Uganda, then for sure, that's my next mission, to pursue a regional perspective.
And actually I'm asking you now, I need to know, you're visiting so many schools, but for sustainability focusing, how are you going to be able to streamline this information, to stay tuned with the students? Because as you are aware, after a short span, they are usually off. How are you going to be able to kickstart, to streamline that information to always flow with these students about anti-corruption?
As I said earlier on, the club idea, which is being processed at the moment, and also I've digitalized the message. I created a Facebook page for the movement. It's entitled PIOF, which abbreviates Preserving Integrity of Future Leaders. This is the theme of the presentation, and I've also created a hashtag for them to remember. The youth today like to post pictures on social media and generally comment on it. So with this hashtag in mind, whatever they post regarding corruption will have this hashtag. So they'll always remember the message through that continuous interaction with the abbreviation. Yes.
So many people have issues with social media. Yes. It seems you are going to use social media for the positive reasons.
Yes, sir.
Do you have the hope that social media is going to really impact on our young people?
Definitely. I feel that's one of the key parts of the campaign, because as a youth, I know how much I use social media and I know how much my peers use social media. So if I join their hands together through what we love to do, definitely to end up positive.
This idea that you're so passionate about, where you go to different schools, meeting different students, talking about corruption, where does this idea come from?
The idea originates, there was a time I was watching the news with my parents, and the first headline that came up was a corruption scandal. The first headline that came up. And recently I was following on the Ugandan Cranes. They'd won a game, I think at Angola or Senegal. But instead of showing, maybe it's the news was chronological, but what impacted me at that point in time was that was the first thing that came up. So at the back of my mind, I always realized, wow, this is serious, huh? People are really suffering. So, and then I read on a Facebook post about someone having an awareness campaign, but this was on a recycling program. Then I combined the two ideas together. Then I'd always had it revolving around my head. Then when I got the chance to do the project, bang, it was on paper, with awareness campaign against corruption.
Most of your engagement is with the young people.
Yeah.
You say from 13 to 18 years. Now, there's some people who believe that the majority of people who actually engage themselves in corruption are actually older people, younger, older people who have gone through the schools. Are you going to be able to engage them?
Now, the problem, Edmund, is that when it comes to communicating with people older than me or at that age, is that generally, will they understand what I'm saying? You know, I'm a young man. They'll look at that first, how young I am. I'm still in school. They'll have that superiority, you know, that inferior complex. Yeah. So, me being able to talk to them and spread my message will be difficult at that point. And breaking that barrier already takes a certain time, region or time limit. Yeah, and I feel I don't have that time right now. But as soon as I establish it at a youth level, then maybe I'll try to pursue talking to adults.
But first and foremost, before even we ask where it comes from, what is corruption in your perspective?
There are two definitions for corruption. Corruption officially is called the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. This is corruption that's publicized by media and that we see every day. Yeah. But then there's another definition of corruption that revolves around the youngsters. This is the definition that makes it manifest into the abuse of entrusted power. I call it compromising one's integrity in order to go through a certain shortcut. Yeah, those are the two definitions I can refer to.
So which one do you usually refer to the most?
With the campaign, the compromising one's integrity. Yeah, that's where they can understand more and reflect on it. With the abuse of entrusted power, they can't really feel for it as more, because none of them are in offices or are politicians yet.
So where does this abuse of integrity come from?
The abuse of integrity?
Yeah.
It comes from being, when you're not morally upright.
Yeah.
It's when you lack principles in life, like what you live by as a person. When your foundations are shaky, definitely you're going to end up in a situation you could commit or perform a corruption tendency at a young age.
So whom should we blame? Parents?
Yes.
Teachers?
I feel parents share the majority of the job, because they're supposed to raise their children in a specific way. And if they aren't sensitizing the children or raising them in the way they would want them to be, then definitely it's going to impact on how they are as adults and as teenagers.
Are we able to fight that vice?
Yes, we are. We have the power in our hands. It's all a matter of using it. Yeah. We don't have to force people to be anti-corrupt. We don't have to. You just have to show people what anti-corruption leads for a better Uganda, a better future, you know, prosperity in general.
Now we have so many anti-corruption agencies. Have you visited any?
Yeah, I recently visited the Inspectorate of Government. It was very. I met the Deputy IGG, both of them, and the Director of Education. During my interaction with the Director of Education, I was able to acquire this badge.
Yeah.
So he calls it being an integrity ambassador. I explained to him what I was doing, and he was very enthusiastic about it and impressed. So he gave me the accolade of integrity ambassador, which he gives to the leaders of his integrity clubs. Now, integrity clubs is his form of spreading anti-corruption among the youth. They're in a few institutions because it was recently opened up, but the leaders get this badge. So he felt that I needed this accolade too, because I'm leading a campaign.
So you mean that if I'm leading the same what you're doing, I could also get that badge?
If it impresses him as much, then yes, definitely.
Because I'm trying to know whether there is a benchmark for one to be an integrity ambassador.
I think in his eyes, taking action. When you are at this age and you're able to do something in terms of taking action against a certain problem, it impresses him as an official. So definitely I think he'd also give you a badge.
So any role models?
Any role models?
Yeah.
I have many, but the ones I could point out that helped me during this campaign. He recently passed away. His name is Muhammad Ali. I also share a birthday with him.
Oh.
Yeah. He's very, when it comes to expressing what he wants to say, he does it very clearly, yeah? Despite what people think or despite the criticism, and everyone understands the message he's trying to say, yeah? Which I respect a lot in an individual. He was a very good sportsman. I love sports too. And I really respect him. And another individual is Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was also a very good public speaker. He inspired a lot of people. He also tackled the vice in his country. At the time it was racism, which I really respect and which I studied about in school. And the last person I could add on is Barack Obama, a very inspiring person. He first black president of America, and I have nothing but respect for him, yes.
In a second, your parting thoughts.
What I can say is, I pray my campaign leads to a better Uganda, and I want to show people that the power is in their hands for them to do something about it. They don't need to acquire it through an election or through signing in or through swearing in on a constitution. The power is in your hands, and all you need to do is take it and do something with it.
Oh, thank you very much, Imran.
Yes.
And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Edmund.
Now, Imran is undertaking a special project in spreading the message of anti-corruption to the young people. He's actually telling us that we need to take this message not to the older generation, but to the young one. And he possibly has a good reason, because you see, when you start training a young child into becoming a better person, you don't do it at a middle age, but from a young child. And of course, our parents are doing a lot of disservice to our children by not doing this. So Imran, a hero among young people, is undertaking that job. The question is, are you listening? Will you listen to him? But more importantly, will you also take action against what he's trying to do? Until we meet again, your coach, Edmond Safari.